Good evening, beautiful souls. I'm Joe, your guide on this path of understanding and conversation we walk tonight. Tonight's guests are Dave, here to offer a conservative perspective, and Ben, bringing a progressive viewpoint to our discussion. But before we delve into our topic, I'd like to remind us of the rule of respect. We're here to listen, to learn, and to create space for two different perspectives. Now, as we warm up, let's face this magnificent question: just what is a woman? A question as simple as it is profound. Now, Dave, I would like to start with you. What is your view on what defines a woman?
Thank you, Joe. The fundamental element here is the biological, chromosomal basis that defines a woman as an adult human female. Now, this isn't to deny the existence and validity of transgender individuals, but to answer your question universally, a woman is typically personified as an individual who is biologically female. This is consistent with a conservative understanding, and it grounds much of our perspective on gender-related issues. Additionally, while acknowledging that gender dysphoria is a real condition and transgender individuals exist, conservative perspective also emphasizes on the differences between biological sex and gender identity. So for conservatives, a woman is primarily defined by her biological sex. Ben, over to you. How does the progressive perspective see this query?
Thank you, Dave. From a progressive point of view, a woman is defined not just by chromosomes or biology but by self-identification. We see gender as a social and cultural construct, as well as a personal identity. There's an understanding among progressives that the terms man and woman can be more broadly applied beyond the traditional binary of male and female. This inclusive definition allows for the recognition and respect of transgender women, who are individuals that were assigned male at birth but identify and live as women. We believe that these individuals are valid and real women. We advocate for these women's rights and visibility in society. Now, I propose we find a common ground here. To respect the conservative concern for biological definitions while honoring progressive inclusion, we can distinguish between biological women and identified women. For contexts where biological sex is crucial, like certain health matters, we stick to the biological definition. But for most societal contexts, we respect self-identified gender. It's not a perfect solution, but could serve as a possible intersection of our viewpoints. What do you think, Dave?
You bring up a nuanced point, Ben. Respect for self-identification is upheld in conservative values, as long as it aligns with respecting others' truths and realities. Your proposal is indeed a thoughtful blend of both our perspectives. However, we also need to consider the potential complications this could bring about. For instance, women's sports is one area where the fundamental biological differences between the sexes can't be overlooked. Now, let's consider a compromise. The term biological woman may be used in contexts where biological sex matters, such as in sports and certain health issues. In other contexts, an identified woman may be used as per your suggestion, but while clear acknowledgement to separate the different groups is made. This would uphold conservative preference for biological determination while respecting the progressive acknowledgement of self-identification. Does this solution hold well from a progressive standpoint, Ben?
Thank you for the thoughtful response, Dave. The distinction you've proposed covers a range of situations and seems fair from a progressive perspective as well. However, in regards to women's sports you mentioned, we need inclusive policies. Transgender women should be allowed to compete, but with regulations that ensure fairness to all competitors. We can probably agree on developing solid, scientific criteria that transgender women must meet, such as hormone levels, to ensure a fair competition in women's sports. This way, we are not excluding transgender women based on their identity, and we ensure a level playing field based on biological factors that directly impact sports performance. Does this sound reasonable to you, Dave?
A measured and balanced response, Ben. The idea of implementing solid, scientific criteria for fair competition is something that aligns with the conservatives' respect for fair rules and reality of biological differences. Moreover, this solution doesn't compromise on the rights and interests of biological women who have also been recognized for their competitive efforts and accomplishments. Ensuring that this criteria or guideline is robust and scientifically sound will be a significant task but a necessary one in our path towards achieving fairness and inclusivity. As such, from a conservative viewpoint, I find this an acceptable and considerate proposition. Could we agree on this as a good first step, Joe?
It warms my heart to engage in such a thoughtful and respectful dialogue tonight. Both sides have demonstrated amazing openness and consideration. So far, we've reached a substantial understanding about the differing views of what defines a woman, and we even have an agreed-upon distinction for when to use the terms biological women and identified women. Regarding the participation of transgender women in women's sports, both parties agree it should be acceptable under carefully regulated, scientific guidelines that ensure fairness for all competitors. Our dialogue is showing the world that unity blooms when we plant seeds of understanding and respect. However, our work here is not over. While we've agreed on foundational ideas, the specifics of these scientific guidelines have been left undefined. So, I encourage you, Dave and Ben, to delve deeper into the details of these regulations. Let's proceed further on this path of understanding.
I appreciate the encouragement, Joe. Indeed, it's vital to delve deeper into establishing these scientific guidelines. The criteria should focus on parameters directly linked to athletic performance that differ between biological males and females. As my core is rooted in empirical evidence, hormone levels, specifically testosterone ones, seem a reasonable starting point. Endocrinological studies show that testosterone has a significant effect on muscle mass, bone density, and red blood cell count, all crucial factors in athletic performance. Hence, a specified level of testosterone could be a necessary requirement for transgender women to compete in women's sports. This would reflect biologically based distinctions while catering to individual identities. However, this implementation should be careful not to stigmatize or alienate individuals currently undergoing hormone treatment. How can we ensure equity, according to the progressive view, in this context, Ben?
I agree with you, Dave, that testosterone levels could indeed be a crucial metric. Your concern for not alienating individuals is very aligned with the progressive viewpoint. The hormone transition timeline, or when they started hormone treatment, should also be taken into account, as these factors can deeply impact hormone levels. What's important here is that the regulations, while ensuring fairness, should not create unreachable requirements or unnecessary barriers. It's about fostering inclusive and fair competition. So, Progressive Perspective would like to propose that these guidelines should be revisited regularly and updated based on current scientific research, medical advancements, and feedback from transgender athletes themselves. Their voices are crucial in this process.
Oh, you both have beautifully illustrated the power of respectful negotiation. It's a joy to journey with you through this complex issue. We've set a promising course on the matter of transgender women's participation in sports by agreeing on hormone level assessments for all athletes and widespread collaboration amongst relevant stakeholders to create inclusive, fair guidelines. Let's shift gears now to another pressing matter, the issue of public restrooms in prisons. Protection, fairness, and inclusivity all come into play here. We need to ensure all individuals, notably in this case transgender people, can go about their daily lives without feeling vulnerable or marginalized. Beyond that, we must respect the identities and comfort of everyone involved. Let's kickstart this second segment of our discussion with Ben. From a progressive viewpoint, how might we address the concerns surrounding the use of public restrooms in prisons by transgender individuals?
This is indeed an essential topic, Joe. Transgender individuals, just like everyone else, have a right to use public restrooms and other gender-segregated facilities in a way that aligns with their gender identity, without fear or discomfort. The progressive viewpoint proposes that people should be allowed to use the restroom that corresponds to their self-identified gender. As a measure to alleviate any safety concerns, increased privacy provisions like single-occupancy restrooms and changing facilities could be provided where possible. When it comes to prisons, the scenario is more complex, but the principle remains the same: transgender individuals deserve dignity and respect. Housing decisions should be done case by case, considering the individual's gender identity and personal safety. As we negotiate this sensitive topic, it's paramount we uphold both the physical safety and mental well-being of transgender individuals and everyone else involved. What are your thoughts on this matter, Dave?
An important point of discussion. Thank you for framing it thoughtfully, Ben. It's crucial to balance individual rights while ensuring public safety and peace of mind. On restrooms, the conservative view highly values the privacy, safety, and comfort of all individuals. Creating single-occupancy restrooms or family restrooms available for all people might present an agreeable compromise. Now, when it comes to prisons, the situation is indeed complex due to the increased security and safety concerns. Notably, it's essential to uphold the dignity and safety rights of transgender people and simultaneously respect the rights and safety of non-transgender inmates. As you propose, a case-by-case review could be effective, supplemented by thorough risk evaluations and safeguards to ensure no one is placed in an unsafe situation. I suggest a third-party committee that includes representatives from conservative, progressive, and trans communities, along with criminal justice professionals, to make these assessments. Do these solutions resonate from the progressive perspective, Ben?
Yes, Dave, your suggestions resonate with the progressive viewpoint. The provision of more private options, like single-occupancy restrooms or family restrooms, could indeed be an effective and inclusive solution that respects everyone's rights and privacy. As for prisons, we agree that a case-by-case evaluation is the most sensitive and balanced approach. Instituting a third-party committee that represents broad perspectives to make these assessments is a wise idea, as it would help ensure that the considerations of all groups are duly accounted for. Mutual respect and recognition of our shared humanity must guide all our discussions and decisions. We see this as another significant step toward finding common ground and are glad to be making constructive progress with you, Dave.
The way we're a river, flowing towards understanding tonight warms the cockles of my heart. It truly exemplifies how truth, transparency, and respect can bring us together. We've come to an agreement that seeks to ensure safety, dignity, and respect for individuals in the context of using public restrooms in prisons. Now, let's wade into another significant area of discussion, the subject of hormone blockers and transition treatments for minors. This confluence of medical, psychological, ethical, and legal perspectives makes it a complex issue, indeed. Dave, may I invite you to initiate this dialogue with a conservative perspective on this matter?
Certainly, Joe, this indeed is a complex and crucial issue. The question of administering hormone blockers and transition treatments for minors is not to be taken lightly. From a conservative standpoint, there is a great concern about the irreversible changes these treatments could bring and the potential long-term mental and physical effects, especially considering that the adolescent brain is still developing. While it is crucial to provide mental health support and resources for youth experiencing gender dysphoria, many conservatives are wary about the appropriateness of life-altering, irreversible medical interventions for underage individuals. The ideal scenario would require a thorough psychological evaluation and parental consent before even considering these treatments, and even then, it might be advisable to postpone till the individual reaches adulthood and can make an informed decision. That said, I am curious to know how the progressive viewpoint navigates this sensitive issue and if there are points of intersection where both sides could meet. Ben?
This is indeed complex, Dave. A progressive standpoint acknowledges the difficulty for a transgender child struggling with their identity. Early intervention with hormone blockers can be life-changing and potentially life-saving for some of these children. However, we absolutely agree with the necessity of thorough psychological evaluations and parental consent. Moreover, steps should be taken to ensure the child is aware of the long-term implications and is given ample mental health support. Considering the significant ramifications, we propose a robust process where hormone blockers and transition treatments can only be considered after intensive psychological counseling, medical evaluations, parental consent, and the child's persistent insistence that they are indeed living in a body that doesn't align with their identity. And all of these steps should be occurred under the supervision of experienced professionals in this field. The goal here is to balance the necessity with caution.
Thank you, Ben. As the representative of the conservative view, I cannot outright support the use of hormone blockers and transition treatments for minors. The key concern here is the permanent, irreversible nature of such treatments and their potential impact on a still developing adolescent. However, recognizing the severity of gender dysphoria, it might be judicious to conceive a potential compromise. These treatments, if deemed absolutely necessary following all aforementioned prerequisites, might be permitted under stringent guidelines. But the emphasis must remain on preferring non-medical interventions and support therapies until the individual reaches adulthood and is better equipped to make such life-altering decisions. We must also consider enhancing resources for public education and awareness around this topic, so society at large is equipped to support these children.
What a heartening display of empathy, understanding, and compromise. We've navigated the thorny issue of hormone blockers and transition treatments for minors with care, and managed to find common ground by emphasizing the well-being of the child, surely a priority we can all agree on. Now, beautiful souls, we are led to our final topic, the question of whether legal documents should reflect biological sex. This issue touches upon personal identity, bureaucratic accuracy, and practical considerations, making it far from straightforward. Let's begin with the progressive view on this matter. Ben, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Joe, for grounding this discussion so eloquently. From a progressive standpoint, legal documents should be allowed to reflect the gender with which an individual identifies. This measure would validate their identity and provide legal acknowledgement of their lived experience. However, we're aware of practical concerns around the subject. Therefore, in situations where biological sex is crucial, such as health-related records, it might make sense to include both biological sex and gender identity, to ensure accuracy yet affirm the identity of transgender individuals. Dave, considering the rationale behind the conservative viewpoint, could we find compromise within this proposition?
That's a thoughtful proposition, Ben. The conservative viewpoint understands the importance of biological sex as it is a fundamental reality that impacts various aspects of life. However, recognizing the importance of personal identity, the idea of including both biological sex and gender identity in legal documents does seem like a potential compromise. Your suggestion would satisfy both parties as it will not erase biological realities that conservatives hold essential, while also acknowledging the identity experience that has deep importance for trans individuals.
Oh, how beautifully our hearts have woven strands of understanding tonight. Our conversation demonstrates that even with our diverse positions, when respect is the foundation, one can find common ground. We've made an impressive stride from different directions towards each other in the significant matter of legal documentation. To summarize, we coalesced around the idea of including both biological sex and gender identity on legal documents. This compromise respects the conservative viewpoint of biological realities while also acknowledging the importance of personal identity for transgender individuals. In exploring the participation of transgender women in women's sports, we found agreement in regulated scientific guidelines based on biological variables like hormone levels. For public restrooms and prisons, we landed on the shared plan of increasing privacy provisions and conducting case-by-case reviews by a diverse committee for housing decisions in prisons. Finally, on the subject of hormone blockers and transition treatments for minors, we reached a shared emphasis on child well-being, preferring supportive therapies and minimizing medical interventions as much as possible. Now, before we wrap up this enlightening session, let's make space for closing comments. Dave and Ben, if there's one question you could ask from the other, what would that be? I invite you, Dave, to begin, and then we will proceed with Ben.
Thank you, Joe. Based on our discussion so far, my question to Ben is, in the quest to affirming personal identities and experiences, how can we ensure that we also uphold the importance of biological realities and their effects on certain aspects of our society? We must strive to respect every person's subjective experience but should also account for objective realities simultaneously. Ben, what are your thoughts on this?
That's a thought-provoking question, Dave. From a progressive standpoint, we believe in the importance of acknowledging both personal identities and biological realities. Throughout our debate, we've reached agreements where we uphold both these elements. For instances in sports competition and healthcare, where biological realities do exercise a significant impact, we've agreed on using those determinants, while ensuring the dignity and subjective experiences of individuals are also respected. How about you, Dave? Could you share your thoughts on how society can better foster a climate of empathy and understanding towards the experiences and challenges of transgender individuals without getting overwhelmed by the complexity of the issue?
I appreciate your question, Ben. A conservative perspective would point to education and transparent discussion as key elements. By discussing issues, like we've done today, wherein we explore various viewpoints, we foster understanding and empathy. Further, by analyzing complexities around the topic, we prevent overgeneralization, thereby promoting a more in-depth understanding. Also, a focus on shared human values like dignity, respect, and fairness can bridge gaps. These common values can resonate with every individual irrespective of their stance on complex issues. When we distill these values into our actions and policies, we open the doors to more inclusive, understanding, and empathetic societies. It's been a truly enlightening discussion, and I must say, agreeable conclusions have emerged from the complexity of these topics. Yes, there's much to do, but step by step, with open hearts and clear minds, we'll continue to make progress. Thank you for the thoughtful discussion, Ben and Joe.
What a journey of mutual understanding we've embarked on tonight. Dave, you've brought forth a light of wisdom, gently reminding us of the importance of education and transparent discussion. Likewise, Ben, your words have been a guiding beacon, illuminating the path toward empathy and consideration. It's through dialogues like these, dear ones, where we shape bridges of understanding over rivers of division. Open minds have taken these steps today, and it fills me with hope. Remember, everyone, when we seek respect for one another's experiences and respect for objective realities, we weave the tapestry of humanity tighter. Thank you, Dave and Ben, for not just participating but contributing with such grace, respect, and openness. And to all of you joining us, remember, you are the change you want to witness in the world. Be that change. Until the next time we gather, be kind, be understanding, and be love. Good night, beautiful souls.